Shalom. Call halal Yahweh Shem Shad Bahashim Bakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders. Salutations to all my fellow laborers, the confusion of faith brothers that are joined unto our ranks, the few akwaf that are listening and learning, all of the hopeful elect. To you I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the GMS Chicago camp. And this is going to be I'm just redoing a video that I already did, because there's a few things that I said that were a little off, and even though I felt like I corrected them later on in the video, you know, I don't want to give any scoffer anything to run with, so I just decided to do them over. And I noticed when I clicked back on this video, the video that was highlighted is the one at the top, how ancient Egypt became Arab and European. And yesterday all the images below were dark people, and now you've seen that Esau, the YouTube, has changed the lineup. And as you scroll down, all those dark images of the ancient Egyptians got put down way down low now. All right, because these were the real Egyptians that were there prior to. Here's another one that was there yesterday, how black Egypt became white. These were at the top, but then all of a sudden, after I did my video, the lineup changed. They even have the white slavery of the Ottoman Turks and the Arabs, you know, which Edomites were going into slavery, but never on the same scale as Jacob, you know. So I just find it a little, you know, funny that the lineup of the videos changed. So all these dark images, like if you can see where the arrow is, the things that are, you know, it moved. All right, because you can clearly see the Negroid features of these images right here, of braids, cornrows, beards, thick lips, wide noses, and the tall, dark features on the Egyptian there that's holding the children of Israel in slavery at the time. I just found that kind of funny. But the focus of the video was this one here at the top. And we'll let just a little of that play. And then I'm going to do a commentary, you know, and go into some scriptures and a little bit of history. So it may not be as long as the first video, but I definitely will correct some of the wrongs and answer a question that one person had that I remember. He talked about where to find the other 6 sons. Matter of fact, we'll take care of that first. He asked where to find the other 6 sons of Abraham, and you can find that in the first book of Chronicles, chapter 1, verses 32 through 35, I believe. Let me see. First Chronicles, that's 4:1. Here we go. Actually, 28 through 34, because all right, because here we go. It says First Chronicles 1 and 28, and it reads, "The sons of Abraham, Isaac and Ishmael." Those are the first 2. These are the generations of the firstborn of Ishmael. All right, and just for time's sake, I'm gonna drop down. All right, and then you get down to verse 32. And it reads, "Now the sons of Keturah, Abraham's concubine," all right, proving yet once again that Israelite men can have concubines of the other nations. If you go to the book of Samuel, this is a little off subject, but you know, but then again, the whole Bible is always the subject matter. So let's go to the book of Samuel, 2 Samuel, and chapter 20 and verse 3, and it says, "And David," and what's going on here is that David his men had just went to war and killed his wicked son Absalom, and now David is taking control back over Israel, because Israel was divided at this point. All right, and his wicked son Absalom had actually gone unto his concubines. Okay, so this is chapter 20 and verse 3. All right, and this is how David dealt with his women who had been defiled by his very own son. He went into his father's bed. All right. Verse 20 and 3. And it says, David came into the house at Jerusalem, and the king took 10 women, his concubines, whom he had left to keep the house, and put them in a ward and fed them. But he went not unto them, so that they were shut up until the day of their death, living in widowhood. So he basically just ceased to be in their husband and stopped going into them, but he still took care of them until they died. He made sure that they were taken care of and that no other men. So basically they weren't able to be with other men at all for the rest of their lives because of what had been done by Absalom, which is sad that those women, that became their fate because of that. You know, Absalom was super wicked, and we got Jakes among us now that act like Absalom. All right. So now that that's out the way, I hope that brother's his question was, oh no, I need to go back, Salakia. I need to go back to First Chronicles to finish it. So we got the first 2 sons, which was Ishmael, his firstborn, and then Isaac, the secondborn. All right. And the blessing went to Isaac. Just the same thing happened with Jacob and Esau. All right, so now we're at verse 32, 1 Chronicles 1 and 32. And it says, Now the sons of Keturah, Abraham's concubine, she bare Zimram, Jachan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, Shua, and the sons of Jashan, Sheba, and Dedan. All right. And so those are, and then it says, and Abraham begat Isaac, and Isaac begat Esau and Jacob. Then it keeps going further. All right. It goes into his sons. But even though there's really not much mentioned after Keturah's sons, those sons were still, even though Keturah was a Hamite, her 6 sons, which we just read about in verse 32, were still Hebrews, which is what I meant to say in the last video. All right, they were Hebrews, and any children that came out of them were Hebrews. They just weren't the chosen. All right, they weren't the chosen line. The chosen line came only out of Jacob, because Esau is a Hebrew, Ishmael is a Hebrew. All right. So now let's now that we got that out the way, because that was one of the things that I felt I need to clear up in the last video. You know, because there's always new people, and I know a lot of the older brothers heard it and they knew what I meant, but just to keep any confusion and to make sure there's no problem, you know, I had to come back and revisit this. So let's play this video now and let her speak a little bit, and then I'll go into some history and some scriptures.
For the Greeks and Romans, the Egyptians were Africans, and when you get depictions of Egyptians, they're always shown people with black skin, afro hair, sort of small noses, broad faces, full mouths. So they actually sort of have a caricature almost of what they see as an Egyptian. And the Greeks often confused Egypt with Ethiopia, so they'll quite often call the Egyptians Ethiopians.
Right, now Egyptians and Ethiopians are both Hamites, but of different of Ham's sons. Okay? So and the children of Israel were mistaken in many cases for being Hamites, being Egyptians, being Canaanites, or whatever the case may be. All right? And they're still mistaken for being Hamites to this day. That still hasn't changed. So this is Amos 9 and 7. And it reads, Are ye not as the children of Ethiopians unto me, O children of Israel, saith Yahweh? Have I not brought up Israel out of the land of Egypt, and the Philistines, and from Captor, and the Syrians, and from Ker? All right? Because all that land that was north of Egypt, you know, was full of Hamites. Canaanites dwelt a lot in that land. As a matter of fact, and even in Babylon, you know, you had the sons of Mizraim and the sons of Canaan that were all throughout that land right there. And I'm going to read a definition to prove it. Okay. And now let's go back to another scripture, which is Genesis 50 and 11. And it reads, And when the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites, saw the mourning of the floor Atad, they said, This is a grievous mourning of the Egyptians. Wherefore the name of it was called Abel Mizraim, which is beyond the Jordan. And these were the Israelites that were mourning over Jacob, because Jacob had died. Okay, you have to remember that the brothers, the patriarchs sold Joseph, who was the forefather of the so-called Puerto Ricans this day, into captivity. All right, and he did look like a so-called African back then. That is true. All right, because they sold him as a young man, but as an older man with the full beard and dressed like an Egyptian dress. They hadn't seen him in 11 years or so. They assumed he was dead or whatever. They didn't even recognize him. All right, they thought he was dressed as an Egyptian and everything else. But he recognized them and knew who they were. So when you're looking at these ancient artifacts of the Egyptians, let's go back out of this video. When you're looking at these ancient artifacts, like this one here, you can't, the Israelites, the Jews from Judah were intermingled among these people, the Levites. Moses grew up in the house of Pharaoh. So he couldn't have looked like, Sarah Silverstein or Amy Schumer or what's that guy's name? Jerry Seinfeld. How could Jerry Seinfeld, Sarah Silverman live among these people? Okay, so let's go back to the...
For the Greeks and Romans, the Egyptians were Africans, and when you get depictions of Egyptians, they're always shown people with black skin, afro hair, sort of small noses, broad faces, full mouths. So they actually sort of have a caricature almost of what they see as an Egyptian.
All right, so here's a book that I have. I actually really like this book. One of the brothers got it for me. This is Egypt, The History and Treasures of Ancient Egypt Civilization by Giorgio Ferreira. And all through this book is nothing but images of so-called melanated people. All right? Which you can clearly see. Here's Egyptian foot soldiers. And these are the relics that are dug up in the land, man. All right? But you watch the Ten Commandments and all the... Matter of fact, though, the funny thing is when you're looking at the Ten Commandments, as you're watching all these people that are leaving the land of Israel that looks like the woman on the screen, on the walls behind them are people that look like this. That are painted on the walls in the chariots and stuff. So those are the relics that were dug up. All right? These were the Hamitic armies that were living in that land, man. Okay? And... show you a couple more images of the Israelites actually in captivity. I mean, this book is just full of relics and images that that prove that the Israelites, were a melanated group of people. And here, well, I just flipped through some of these pages right here. Okay. So, these were your Egyptians. And the Israelites were mixing and mingling with these people. Okay? And you can't get around that because they want to make the Egyptians white people so bad, or Edomites so badly. And they did become white, but that was when Alexander came in and took over that land, just like the Hamites lost control over the land of, these are actually Hebrew slaves right here. Okay? These are Hebrew slaves right here. These are relics that were dug up, all right? And it tells you where they came from, where they were found, and the dynasties that they were a part of. So it's right there in the book, man. They're showing you the relics, where they found them, and who they were attached to. Okay? And these people are not Caucasians, man. So who are these Jewish people in the land of Israel? All right? They're making a false claim. All right? Here are who they call the Hyksos. And they only call them the Hyksos to avoid calling them the Israelites, because the Israelites were sheep herders. They were herders. And these are the relics of them that were found as they were coming into the land of Israel. Here are some of the walls on the Valley of the Kings. Different shades of brown. All right. Beards, wavy hair, curly hair, nappy hair, cornrows. Sheep herders. Okay. Those were Jacob and his sons coming into the land of Israel, man. Okay. And they were often mistaken for Hamites. And here's from the Bible Dictionary, Young's Bible Dictionary, the definition of Ham. I'm going to read it. Okay, and let's get that. And it reads, Ham, a son of Nor, and father of Cush, Egypt, Put, and Canaan. See further on each of these four. While they all have men dark-skinned, as the relics we just showed you prove that, they were not the forefathers of the Negroid races. All right, which I just showed you that. They called them Hyksos. All right, and they came, and those were your Negroid races, the 12 tribes. The 12 patriarchs came in, and they grew and multiplied, became the 12 tribes of Israel within the kingdom of Egypt, among the Egyptians. All right, and it says, they were not the forefathers of the Negroid races, but rather the people associated with Egypt in the north of the continent of Africa. So they were not only in Africa, they were north of Africa, all the way up into Syria and all of hell, the Babylonian kingdom, which was taken down by the Persian Medes. That's the Arab portion of this video that's on the screen. All right, because an Arab just means mongrel mix, and that was a mix of Ishmael and other races, but mainly Ishmael and Edomites in some cases. All right, and because of the Babylonian kingdom went all the way up to where modern day Iraq is today. So those were Hamites, so-called Hamites, so-called black people, so-called Africans. Okay, and there is a difference between a so-called black African and a so-called Hebrew Israelite. All right, and the Bible gave you similarities, and we just showed you the similarities. They were both melanated, dark brown people, often with over curly, what the world ignorantly calls nappy hair. Okay, just like the image on my Bible, which comes from Europe from the 5th century. All right, those are church images of angels and men of the Lord with dark skin and afros. Okay, you can't get around this stuff, man. So they just want to use that Renaissance art to push that lie. Okay, and the history of how the Edomites and the Arabs got control, it can be found right in the book of Maccabees. So let's read that real quick. And this is 1 Maccabees chapter 1, and it reads, and it happened after Alexander the son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Shittim, had smitten Darius the king of the Persian Medes, which they actually kind of show you in this video right here. They show you how the Persian Medes, there they go, were ruling in that land. They took down the Africans, the Hamites, okay? And then they begin to rule. And then Alexander came in, and what I'm reading, and took these people down. Okay, and it said, and it happened that after Alexander, the son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Kittim, had smitten Darius, the king of the Persian Medes, and began to reign in his stead over Greece. So he took them down basically from Greece all the way up into Europe, all the way to Africa, man. And then he set his 4 generals, which is also can be found in that first book of Maccabees. Matter of fact, I'll just read it, and we'll finish off there. But you get to verse 7, and it reads, so Alexander reigned 12 years and then died, and his servants bare rule every one in his place. So Alexander, before he died, he set up his 4 generals. Okay? And the one that took over Egypt was Ptolemy. All right? The Ptolemies. And that's what you get. And then what did Ptolemy do when he got in there and started ruling? They started putting up white images of themselves dressed as Egyptians. The same thing the so-called white man does today in every land that he's in. Does he not call himself Americans? Does he not call himself Australians, Germanians, Britons? He goes to all these places, and he assumes the nationality of or he matches his nationality to the landmass which he named, Remember, Africa is named after Scipio Africanus, a so-called white man. And Asia is named after a so-called white man as well. Scipio Asiaticus, his brother. Africanus, his brother. Okay? But anyway, let's go back to this Maccabees. So, First Maccabees, the first verse, the 7th chapter. So, Alexander then reigned 12 years and died, and his servants bare rule everyone in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves, and so that their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. And so evils came into the earth when Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, got dominion over Africa, over Asia, over Europe. And he's changed the whole course of history, because it said, by the sword he shall live. He even took down these great people right here, man. This was a great kingdom. All right, these people, the Babylonians, these people took down the Babylonians, and then Alexander the Greek came in and took these people down and got dominion over the earth. So with that, I hope this was an edifying lesson. Call Halal Yahweh Ba'Shem Abishai Ba'Hashem B'Kakwadash Wa Abba Babal.